right, we are live. Facebook today. Well, first off, just anyone that's joined us here, thank you so much. We've got myself here today on Refresh Friday, of course. Alex isn't with us today. He's on a little getaway escapade somewhere. I think in Cleveland, or I don't know where he's at.
Lucky.
He was undisclosed. Undisclosed. He's I guess what do they call it, off the grid. So stepping in place, it's always a pleasure having Steve with us. So we've got Steve Stauning, and
Hello.
today sort of our special guest, we've got Mike Haeg. Mike is Vice President of Automotive with Callbox. Some of us might also know that as, that's how I've always known it, as Century Interactive. And then also Car Wars. You guys have like a bunch of names. I can't keep up with them sometimes. So, but thanks for joining us today, Mike. Mike, again, Vice President of Callbox. I think, Mike, you know just about everything when it comes down to the phone. Practices, marketing, just about anything. And you and I go back pretty far. We've known each other for quite a while, right?
Yeah, way back. I was actually trying to think before we started this what even introduced us or who did. I think it was through DealerRefresh. I mean, it had to have been through DealerRefresh, and maybe a former marketing person here kind of knew you and introduced me via email. I mean,
I think that's who was before you. I think that's how it was. It was through DealerRefresh, but it was
there's a guy named Steven Cravens, if you remember that.
Yes,
yeah, awesome dude. He still lives here in Dallas.
Cool.
And then I just jumped in and kind of latched on to guys like you for knowledge and insight selfishly, and tried to write or help any way I could. But yeah, it's been a fun ride.
It has been. So again, thanks for joining us today. We've got a bunch of things I think we're going to talk about. I know, Steve, you're itching. You got a bunch of things that you want to bring up to the table.
I am chomping at the bit, but I before I say anything else, I'd like to say, hey, Mike, it's really nice to finally meet you. I've heard a lot of good things about you. That's a joke, and let me fill you in. So we all know Big Tom LaPointe, and I am Mike's Big Tom LaPointe, and I'll tell you why in a second. I had met Tom LaPointe, I think 7 times in a row at different conferences, and every time I met him, he would say, "It's really nice to meet you finally," and as if we'd never met before. And I have this forgettable face, I guess. And so finally now, Tom obviously knows who I am because we made a big joke about it. And then we were at Innovative Dealer Summit this month, and I walked up, I sat down next to Mike at Scott Eisenfelder's session, and he shook my hand. He goes, "Hey, Steve, good to see you." And I said, and I looked at his tag, I said, "Hey, Mike, nice to meet you." And but I figured it out, Mike. I figured out why. You don't have a forgettable face, but I figured out why I always approach you as if we've never met before. And that's because your picture online has you with glasses, right? Mike's picture everywhere.
No, I've had more than one person say that.
Is with glasses. You've got to take a new photo. Now, I use
I really do.
yearbook photo everywhere, but
I need it. Well, first of all, great to meet you as well. I love the so great to see you and then nice to meet you response. It's perfectly Larry David awkward moment, which I just love. So I got LASIK before or after that photo. I don't know if I told you that, but
I did not know that.
I need to go do the re-headshot thing. For whatever reason I haven't, but no need for glasses because now I've got 20/20 Superman X-ray vision.
Fantastic.
But you're not the first person to say that is what's funny. So duly noted, by the end of May, I'll have that done.
Well, I appreciate it. And as I said at Innovative Dealer Summit, I will never again act like we haven't met. So we've got the Tom LaPointe issue solved.
It felt like my high school dating scene all over again. Like, hey, like we have class together, and hey, what's your name? We sit next to each other.
I don't know if you're familiar, Steve, with comedians, but I've always felt as if Mike looks like Dimitri Martin.
Oh, there you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
One day Jeff just shoots me an email and says, it was like years ago now. It just says,
that was a long time.
It was just kind of, hey, FYI.
So
hey, you're your doppelganger.
I actually got LASIK in 2001, and the reason was someone said, "Hey, you look like somebody famous." I was wearing glasses at the time, and I was ready for, you know, Lorenzo Lamas, something cool like that. And they said Rick Moranis. The next week I signed up for LASIK.
Yeah, quick appointment.
Not good.
Yes, Dave Metter, I do act like I've never met you before. That's because I want to avoid. Sorry, Dave's on the Facebook. Hey, by the way, folks on Facebook, why don't you like this and share it and do that?
Yeah.
So let's get your friends involved. Come on.
Yeah, we've got.
They don't care who you know.
Posted. I was a little bit late getting it up on Facebook today, but that's out. The email is out. So anyone that's joining us, thank you so much. I don't. We really don't have much housekeeping. We sort of gotten away from that and just get straight into the topics. But with that being said, Steve, like you said, you're chomping at the bit. Let's dive into. You have something to say about Carvana, I believe, right?
Well, it's pronounced Carvana.
Carvana.
I know, but I like to say Carvana too, and I know you know how it's pronounced. So Carvana had an interesting week. I don't know if you've followed their stock, but this week their stock popped 15% on Monday out of nowhere on 3 times the normal volume. And that's just not normal. And I know that this is a great chart from Joe. Uncle Joe posted a great chart that said, hey, Carvana was due to break out. Here's why. Here's the technical reasons for it. But what I'll tell you is this. There is probably an SEC investigation ongoing right now, because what happened, the reason I believe that it popped 15% in one day on 3 times normal volume and then popped some more the next day was because Carvana bought a 3D and VR company called Car360. Yeah, and obviously, or in my opinion, there were folks who had knowledge of this over the weekend and jumped in on Carvana stock on Monday. It popped again a little more on Tuesday. Their market cap right now is about $4 billion. And I want to put that into perspective for you. And this is where I'm kind of chomping at the bit on it, not necessarily because the stock popped. It was a $22 million purchase that raised their market cap by about $500 million. And that's just not normal. But really nothing about the way Carvana is treated by Wall Street is normal. They're treated like a tech company and not a car dealer. And we've gone over and over again why it's tough, why they're really a car dealer, and really why they're probably not worth $4 billion. But I just want to put the $4 billion into perspective today. And I'm not a Carvana detractor in that their model is not attractive to some consumers. Let's be very clear. I am a detractor in that their model is fine, except it's just not worth $4 billion. So I have, just to put it in perspective, their revenue last year was under 900 million. The revenue for Lithia last year was something like 10 billion, over $10 billion. Yet Lithia is only worth 2.5 billion market cap. So they're worth 1/4 of what their revenues were. Carvana is worth 4 billion today, and their revenues were 900 million. So just to justify the $4 billion price tag, they're going to need revenues, because obviously we know what the profits are in automotive. They're going to need revenues, in excess of 15, $20 billion? I mean, more than Lithia, 15, 20 times what it is today. So I just think Wall Street's a little bit crazy about Carvana, and regardless of Joe's chart, which I love, I think we need to start looking at them as a car dealer, because that's what they are.
And the reason why these crazy numbers are because they're not being looked as a car dealership, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're being looked at as
how can they not? They sell cars.
Yeah, they do, and they sell used cars and don't sell new. They don't do service and parts, and so they have an issue with trades, right? Because if you don't sell new cars, you can't get vehicles in on trade, because they don't have a manufacturer behind them. They can't go to closed auctions. So they have to buy and recondition cars the old-fashioned way, through the auctions. They don't get to do it through trades.
They're probably more of a car dealership than half the car dealerships out there.
True. Yeah. I mean, I can tell you from my experience from dealing with dealers who see their buyers in the lanes, they overpay for a lot of vehicles in the lanes. And, they need the inventory, and I get it. And, it's just they're just not going to be able to continue to justify a $4 billion market cap. Whether they survive or not, I don't know. I have my feelings that well, not my feelings, but 96% of millennials say they want to test drive, right? So
still to this day.
Yeah, to this day.
Yeah.
Well, it's always fun. I mean, again, I'm here at the front line of the dealership, and, I read all the studies, I read all the stats, and, but yet working on the front line, having the consumers come in, I mean, it's a completely, what's written out there is completely different of what actually happens at the dealership. Completely different.
Agreed.
I mean, people come in, they do want to test drive. They do want to touch it. They want to look at it. They want to feel it. They want all those great things that go along with purchasing a car. Yet all these articles out there and I guess the analysis or analysts out there, they all say almost like the exact opposite. And it boggles my mind. And I don't know how long, how long is Carvana going to handle this until this shit just bursts?
So their problem is math, and it's still math. I mean, that's the whole point. We can have our opinions about people hate buying cars. Well, they've hated buying cars for 50 years. And we talked about this the last time, but
I don't think people hate buying cars though.
No, they hate the car buying process. Sorry. They overwhelmingly don't like the car buying process, but that doesn't mean that they're going to buy cars sight unseen. You could do this for over a decade on eBay Motors, yet very few people do. Cliff Banks had a great stat on the number of cars that were sold online last year with Tesla, Carvana, eBay, all of the options out there. It was a tiny, tiny percentage. And so, listen, again, their model is fine. It's just not worth $4 billion. Now, if they add lots, this was my suggestion to them, right? If you allow people to come in and browse and test drive, and you don't have to have salespeople, just have a big kiosk where people can go and, get the keys knocked out to them. They can run out and test drive it on their own, scan their license. Maybe that's the direction they're going. But here's another thing about the $4 billion market cap. That's more than 4.5 times bigger than Sonic. They're worth more than 4.5 Sonics. Now, which would you rather own? 4.5 Sonics? And I'm talking about the car dealer, not the burger stand.
I was.
Yeah, no, you were like, hey, I'll take 4.5 Sonic burgers over owning Carvana.
Serve me up some milkshakes, man.
No, but Steve, that's isn't that the kind of the Warren Buffett MO on investing, right? Go for the organization that is providing a good or a value. Would you rather have gold or Coca-Cola, is what Buffett always says, right? A company that is consistently producing and bringing value to the market and developing products and selling them consistently, or gold. He always uses those comparisons. Make no mistake, their revenue growth is real, but it is driven by spending. And so at some point, math is going to catch up to them, just as it is with Tesla right now. I mean, Tesla has these problems producing vehicles that won't break down. Once they do break down, they have a problem getting the vehicles back to people fixed, and at the same time running out of cash. And so, I think Metter said it in the comments, but people don't understand the car business. People outside the car business just don't understand it. Now, Carvana does have roots in the car business. Obviously, they came from came from Drive Time, a buy here, pay here dealer, and so they understand that part of it. But again, Wall Street, they make mistakes, right? They valued Pets.com as a tech company and not a pet store, and that didn't end up very well.
No, it did not.
So, Steve, you think they just kind of it sounds like they just kind of slowly creep over time more and more into the typical traditional retail dealership, and before you know it, they're looking at themselves just saying, oh, we're a dealer, right? So tomorrow they had lots. And then we need some salespeople to help the people. So all of a sudden you have a lot plus salespeople, and then, just kind of snowballs from there.
They might. So that's a great point. And so my advice to dealers today is to mimic Carvana, at least in your marketing. Make sure people know that they can buy online from you, because dealers can do that today. Talk about the great experience. Talk about those things. Take Carvana's ammunition away from them, because when Carvana does those things, or if they do those things, they will be a true threat to dealers, because they are presenting themselves as the anti-dealer. And so
remove test drives. No test drives?
No. Well, no. I mean, make it available that they can remove test drives. But here's the thing: the dealers who are selling cars online today, people like Reichert Ford, they still sell a very tiny percentage to people completely sight unseen. What people like to do is they want to start online, build their deal, come in and test drive it, and then complete their deal. And that's going to be more the norm than the true buy online, sight unseen, 7-day return policy. And so, the point is that they're not a tech company, so they either have to really morph into a tech company, and maybe Car360 is their tech play, right?
Mm-hmm.
They bought it for $22 million or whatever. It's not worth the increase in market cap unless they're going to sell that technology to other dealers, right? And keep Car360 as sort of a division of Carvana. If all they do is bring all that technology in-house, they're going to have a really cool online display. But prior to buying Car360, you know what they had? They had a really cool online display, right? Their display was better than most dealers. And so that was an advantage, but it's still, at the end of the day, how many people are going to buy cars sight unseen? And then finally is the cost, right? So we know from NADA stats that the average dealer takes just about $200 and something to the bottom line from every used car they sell. And when you take the salesperson out of the mix, but you add in pickup and delivery and a 7-day return, those are costs as well. So how much are they going to recover from this, what we're paying salespeople on a used car? I mean, I don't see it worth $4 billion. That's my point.
What do their salespeople make?
They don't have salespeople. What do you mean? At Carvana?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're delivery people.
Yeah.
Probably make what delivery people make. The point is that it's not cheap to pick up and deliver vehicles, right? It's not cheap to buy from the auction.
That's my point. Yeah.
Yep.
So, Mike, do you know who they use for all their phone tracking, and do they get phone calls?
They do, actually. I've thought a lot about that, but most of their calls are, as far as I understand it, are mainly more just kind of customer service centric.
Uh-huh.
They have kind of a customer service center that isn't really engaged in, as far as I understand it, kind of the typical phone process that a retail dealership would be.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of a customer service. They're not trying to set appointments. They're not trying to sell you the car. They're not trying to get your credit card number. They're trying to help you through the process of what Carvana does, right? What makes them different, how delivery works, things like that. So
their phone calls are like basically around the why buy?
Yeah, but I would even say
sounds boring.
That's not fun. Let's set some appointments.
Here's the thing. There's no one to set the appointment with, right? No salesperson there. I think we can all remember Saturn, right? Saturn, not the planet,
yeah.
the GM company. They were going to do it differently, right? And people who drove Saturns it was like a cult, right? It became a cult. They liked being able to go to the Saturn plant and visit their car while it was being built and, goofy crap like that. And, where is Saturn today? I mean, it's not around. Eventually you have to sell cars the way that people want to buy cars, which is I want to come out, I want to kick the tires, I want to see everything side by side. Some people still want to even negotiate. And so there is
a lot of people still want to negotiate.
Rick Buffkin, by the way, commented on Facebook, they've got a vending machine in their market and they haven't seen, there's no chatter about Carvana in the market. They haven't seen a downturn in their used car sales. I think it's a really cool concept. And I think that it can survive as a dealership if they do some dealership things, but as a $4 billion tech company, I just don't see it. Again, the math, that darn math, it always
gets you
down.
Well, I mean, CarMax sort of came out that strong. I mean, it was a different process. But at the end of the day, they sort of conformed into the traditional, there's still one price. But, they, just like you said, they eventually had to adapt to the way consumers actually want to buy vehicles.
And make no mistake, CarMax, though, offers that you can buy online from CarMax, but most everybody goes to CarMax and they get to look at 300 different vehicles and see them side by side and kick the tires and do all that. And oh, by the way, CarMax is worth $11 billion.
Yeah.
Their market cap, last I checked, but they have the revenue and the profit to back that up. I think at some point I could see Carvana, beyond adding some lots where I could come and kick some tires, I could see them adding some service, right? Because I can tell you, I hate servicing with dealers. The dealers in our market look at me like I have three heads when I show up for my appointment. And that's a big customer service issue. And so if you're going to treat me differently at service, right? If you're going to stop paying your advisor's commission, and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now, but if you're going to treat me like the independents treat me, I'm going to be more likely to service with you. So there's some opportunity for Carvana, but again, as I see it, they've got to either become a dealer or they've got to become a tech company.
Tech, Mike, what do you consider Car Wars? Are you guys a tech company?
Yeah, we're a software company.
Okay.
That builds software that happens to deal with the phones, which is fun because I love kind of working in that space where it's fancy, cool, interesting software, but kind of a time-tested technology like the phone. It's kind of bridging that gap.
Now, Mike, you have to admit, though, that dealers have solved all of their phone issues, right? And that companies like yours have really no opportunity moving forward. Is that fair?
If that's the case, I'm frantically updating my resume and telling my wife that our budget just got cut in half.
I don't know anyone that has better job security than you, Mike.
Well, we laugh about it, but I genuinely care enough to where that's not always fun. That's not fun. I go to these conferences. You guys go to the same ones, and a great phone trainer gets up there and plays a phone call that's just a total disaster to kick off the presentation. Just awful. And everybody laughs and belly laughs and says, yeah, that's happening at my store right now. And they go about their day.
Yeah, they don't do anything about it.
Yeah, that's what sends me into hypnosis or sends me into, I guess, joy because I've got job security. And I hate the ones that get up there, and I've seen it. I bet you guys have too. And it turns almost into a mocking, point your finger and laugh at the dealer because you guys know this. I get it. It's hard, man. There is a lot going on. The phone is it feels disconnected from from ourselves because it is one step away. With turnover, how hard is it? You got a new sales staff once every 6 months or once every year with green salespeople or veterans who don't want to try new things. So it's tough. It shouldn't be a finger point, but if you're not serious about it, that's when I want to talk.
But and we want to hear some not necessarily horror stories, but really I really want to understand, Mike, because you guys see all the data. Where are dealers making strides? Where are things turning around? But make no mistake, dealers that I deal with, they all want to still chase those shiny objects. They want that magic.
Yeah.
They want to talk about their neighbor's website. All of these things they think that's going to drive share for them. And I can tell you that all of them would sell way more cars if they just got good on the phones. Just good, not great, just good.
Yeah, and just good's a fair way to say it because you'll never be perfect. That's kind of worth saying. If that's what you expect or hope or think you're failing if you're not perfect, then bad way to start. We use the persona a lot here of dealers feel owned by the phone. It's this pit in their stomach when they leave the dealership. They had 100 things to do. Fix the phones was step 79. Guess what? We got to step 78 and had to go home, or to-do list 78. We want to get them to a point where they feel like they're at least in more control. I know this is happening. I know this is where my opportunity is. I know this is what I can do. I can't do it all by 5 o'clock today, but I can get a little bit better by solving these gaps. And the gaps are surprisingly simple and not nearly, I think, as complicated as maybe a lot of dealers think. Let's start with one. By the time this thing is over, dealership XY, this conversation we're having, dealership XYZ out there will have gotten a few sales calls, and 70% of those will have gone to a salesperson's voicemail. Ooh. And those are the leads that they're paying great lead providers out there that I respect and love to work with for, right? Those guys should be just as angry as anyone, but they'll go to voicemail, or they'll go to sorry, Sally's not in right now. Can I take a message? That's step one. We call that connect, getting the call to somebody who can actually help. You want to talk about low-hanging fruit, start there. And a lot of dealerships are starting to figure out the big groups out there that we work with a very, aggressive or corporate structure that says we're going to fix these big problems. They shudder when we say, hey, half your calls are going to voicemail, because that's low-hanging fruit. And that's a lot of wasted money, man.
I just called a dealer friend the other day, a guy that's a great GM, known him for a long time, knew him from my Asbury days, and I needed a favor, and I called his dealership, and I didn't have his direct line, so I thought I'd, just ask for him, and I got the phone tree. And what was interesting to me is that of all the choices, new car sales was 6, press 6, and used car sales was press 7. So they had 5 other choices that got in ahead of that. For parts, press 1. For service, press 2. For body shop, press 3. I mean, it was nuts. That your most valuable call, because the service customer, they'll wait, right? They'll wait for service, press 6. It was just amazing to me that this guy who runs a great store, in my opinion, it's a great store, was allowing an automated answering machine, and that sales was way down at the bottom of the list. It just really felt like 1980s.
Why would they do that?
I don't know.
Yeah, and it's to your friend. It's kind of this.
Mike?
Yeah, Mike, why would they do that?
Good question.
So what are some other stats, Mike, that you're seeing? I mean, you get to see everything. I mean, is there anything out there that's sort of blowing your mind right now? Or, even if it's the 101, it comes down to best practices. What are some other, maybe something surprising that you're seeing that isn't the norm?
Yeah. Steve, you're going to like this one because you're an appointment culture guy. How little
I'm the father of the appointment culture. At least that's what I say.
Big daddy.
How little the appointment is asked for on inbound sales leads. Okay. These are good people, right? These are friendly people that want to do a good job. This isn't the call that you get up and play in front of an audience and everybody laughs because the guy just totally stinks on the phone. He or she is friendly, answers some questions, and it comes to this fork in the road where that person is clearly not trained or clearly not aware of the importance of simply asking for the appointment. Guys, I'm not even saying at this point, set a firm appointment with a dated time, get all the contact information and all that. Just simply asking for the appointment, we're seeing a good dealership doing decent, selling a lot of cars, might still only be asking for it 30% of the time on inbound sales.
Wow.
Yeah. So one of the stats that KPIs that I hold my dealerships to that I work with is I want to see a 50% set to connection rate as a minimum. And that means out of, talking to 100 people, that 50 of them are at least willing to set an appointment with me. It means I'm having the appointment conversation at least 7 out of 10 times, which really, again, it's a minimum KPI. And that's a new stat we're kind of looking at now, is that set to connection rate. But, when I go into a dealership and we're working with them on phones and they want to see the bad calls, I go to those 11, 12-minute calls, right?
Yeah.
Where you hear the BDC agent or the salesperson say silly things like, can I answer any more questions for you? Did you have any other questions about the vehicle? People today don't have those questions. They did 10 years ago, but today all the information's online. They called because they want to buy a car, right? And they want to buy that car. They've chosen that vehicle out of the millions for sale. They're calling when they say, is it in stock? They're saying, I hope it's in stock because I want to buy it. I'd like to buy it today because it's a good price. And the salesperson or the BDC agent they just think that their job is 411 and their job is information, and it's not. My training is get to the appointment quickly, right? Get it out there early. Don't start asking about alternatives and things like that. Your goal is an appointment that shows.
We say a lot here that you just said it too, but I'll reiterate. They're not shoppers anymore. They're buyers.
Yep.
At that point, they have done all the research. And you hear this all the time at conferences. They've done all the research. They know all the stuff. What they're trying to do, or whether they realize this or not, is rule out dealerships, right? They might call 2 or 3 or 3 or 4, but they're just trying to rule them out, and they're going to land on basically 1, maybe 2. So if you're not that dealership and you got a call, I guarantee you that they're going somewhere else, and I guarantee you just got ruled out. They want to back out of a situation or of a dealership, and they do that on the phone, right? When they are officially buyers, not shoppers.
Sure. They're trying to eliminate you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. And we're making it easy, right? We're making it easy for them to eliminate us by giving them all the information until they've exhausted questions and exhausted even questions they hadn't even thought of, but they just keep thinking of questions until they get that chance to eliminate that dealer. So good stuff. I mean, that's it's interesting to hear that so many calls aren't being answered, and that so few calls, that the calls that are being answered, we're not asking for the appointment.
Let me stop you there. I'll push back on that, because you just said a buzzword that I like to point out when I talk to dealers. The difference between the word, we're going to get down to semantics here, but answer and connect, right? If I call your dealership right now, and this is worth noting, and I have given presentations before, talked to dealers where this becomes a 30-minute conversation. If I call your store right now, for the most part, somebody will answer the phone, generally or often a friendly receptionist who I've got no beef with, will answer it 97% of the time. And what dealers do is they go check their Cisco phone report, and they come back and they say, no problem here. I answered the phone 97% of the time, right? What happens next is connect, right? So did the call reach somebody who could actually help the caller? And we track that data. We know what's happening after that kind of decision point or fork in the road. And it's the same stuff you'd expect. It's voicemails. It's hitting a voicemail and not leaving a message. It's being offered to leave a message with somebody, a live note, and declining, or, it's sitting on hold and hanging up after 30 seconds. So that answer versus connect, I like to jump on that, not to call you out, because it is so important, because that's where the misconception is. That's where the data that we're looking at is wrong, because my Cisco phone report here says 97% answer, or I hear it. I hear my receptionist answer every call. When that phone's ringing, I know it. Meanwhile, sales guy Jeff is on vacation for 2 weeks or a week, and his voicemail box isn't set up, and we're just pounding calls to Jeff's voicemail box. And the voicemail boxes are terrible at setting appointments. I mean, the absolute worst.
And you can't trust people named Jeff in the car business.
Someone needs to figure out a voicemail, some type of technology that will schedule the appointment once in voicemail.
Well, it's coming, right? So all of the AI that's out there.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about. We can do that with chat. Why can't we do this with voicemail, Mike?
It's coming.
It's seriously, it's not far. I mean, some of the stuff that we're developing is close, where it's just basically recognizing repeat callers. Mm-hmm. Hey, if you've called service 5 times in the past 3 days, let's direct you to service immediately. Like, there's a good chance that you're just trying to check on your car. Let's give the salespeople or the service BDC agents more information on the front end. Let's give them the customer's name and why they're calling immediately by grabbing that data from DMS. So they're not saying for the 12th time, my name is Sally and I'm calling about a car and service. So that AI, that machine learning stuff, it's here. I mean, I know it's a buzzword, but what matters with those buzzwords is, can you practically make it help? Can you package it and put it in a way that is just simple and easy to use?
No,
that's the race.
No, I like that. I haven't thought about that. I like that, Mike. So, the customer's called in 3 or 4 times. You're looking at the data that's in the DMS or maybe in the CRM, notes that are taken maybe another third-party software. They call in. You're able to present that data in front of the service customer, or in front of the service rep or the sales rep, and then maybe even use some of that AI to determine what that customer's next question is going to be.
Well, and my bank knows who I am when I call, right? American Express knows who I am as soon as I call. All of that stuff pops up on the screen.
Well, that's just a reverse phone number, Steve.
When I call. Well, I understand. And that's what I'm saying is geez, wouldn't it be great to actually do that on our side and pull in that DMS data? Hey, let's do something real quick before we go to the next topic. Let's go ahead and call a dealership, and let's see I'm kidding. I can't go through a Refresh Friday without bringing out my trusty cell phone.
Of course not. We can't. Can you really make a phone call on that?
No, he can't.
Well, then why tease us? Steve, why tease us?
I'm sorry.
You're nothing but a tease all the time.
That's me. Hey, but Mike did want to talk about my article.
Yes.
So I don't want to.
Which one?
The Toyota, the $108 million we can save Toyota.
Oh yeah.
Spend on Ford. So for the last few months, I've been on sort of not a kick, let's say. It's actually been about 6 or 8 months where when I'm going into dealerships, I'm discovering true fraud, and I call it sometimes just waste and fraud or waste or fraud, but I've uncovered true fraud in dealerships and on this pay-per-click and display. So most of the SEM stuff that's out there today, what's troubling for me is that where we discover this are where the dealer is using the OEM approved provider and enjoying co-op along with it. Mm-hmm. And so I've written a few articles around it. We did an Undeniable Advantage live webcast about SEO and SEM waste and fraud that's out there today. And it's still a lot of it wasn't resonating with dealers, but especially wasn't resonating with the OEMs. So I wrote this article, which is, you can put any two OEMs names in the headline, but it's basically that at the $6,000 that we're uncovering at the average dealership, $6,000 a month times, say, 1,500 Toyota dealers, that's $108 million a year that is being completely wasted in that, in tier 3 spending for Toyota. And what could Toyota do if they help their dealers spend that money better? And my argument is, heck, use the money for Pizza Fridays, for gosh sakes, because it's not doing you any good in digital marketing. And 2 quick points before we because Mike wanted to talk about this as well. But Procter & Gamble last year cut $200 million. P&G cut $200 million from their digital marketing budget and increased their reach by 10% just by being better at spending that money. Now, what are they doing with that $200 million, right? Where are they going to be able to invest that or reinvest that or put it into shareholders' pockets? How are they doing that? But another one is from last year was Restoration Hardware found that of the 3,200 keywords I think they were buying, that 2,200 of those, or the 22 of those keywords drove 98% of their online business. So they were bidding on 3,200 keywords, but only 22 keywords drove really any meaningful business for Restoration Hardware. And guess what? All 22 keywords were versions of Restoration Hardware's name, misspellings, that sort of thing. And so think about that. And so they obviously said, you know what, we're going to get that business no matter what. People looking for Restoration Hardware are going to find Restoration Hardware. And I don't even count that in the 6,000, dealers wasting money on their own name. But I mean, imagine what we could do with this money if we spent it the right way. So that's the reason for the article.
Steve, you kind of gave one example there, but I think when I pinged you before this started about what else? Because I like things like this. It's similar to the phone because I think it's low-hanging fruit, right? I think it's kind of these little nuggets that can have immense effects on the bottom line. Just connecting 10 more sales calls a week to a salesperson. Even if you're terrible on the phone, you'll probably get an appointment out of one of those. So that's why I was kind of so captivated by your article, because it seems almost so common sense and like such low-hanging fruit. What are some other examples of fraudulent or just kind of mismanaged spend that the average dealer is probably doing today and they don't even realize? Do you have any other ones?
Yeah, so my favorite is display. So today you can buy real valid display with limited fraud involved right through Google. And you're going to pay about a $1 CPM. That means you're going to pay $1 for about 1,000 impressions. That means for $1,000, you can get 1 million impressions. When you're buying display through your OEM's provider, what I've found, and it's co-opt, the two of you together might be spending, say, $1,000, right? You're spending 500, the OEM's spending 500. But instead of getting 1 million impressions, you're getting 140,000 impressions, right? You're getting 1/7 of the impressions you should get because the provider is marking up those impressions because you're buying it through the provider instead of buying it directly from Google. And that's fully supported by the OEM, and it's just pure waste, right? You could take that same $1,000 and get 7 times more impressions, right? Get 1 million impressions. And by the way, I've seen as high as $18 CPMs, where that means $18 for every 1,000 impressions being sold to dealers, and those same dealers could buy those impressions for about $1, right? Instead of 18. So it's 18 times more that they're spending on these things. So what could we do with that money? Could we buy more impressions? Sure. Could we use it in other ways? Absolutely. And these impressions are everything. They include retargeting. It's not that expensive to buy impressions today with display advertising. So if we think digital is important and we think we need to spend money on digital, great. I'm all in on that. But why aren't we paying what we should be paying for these things? Now, the providers will tell you, because I've had them tell dealers when I'm on the phone with the dealer and them at the same time, they'll say, well, you can't buy directly from Google because we're buying from all these other networks. Okay, listen, I'm going to trust Google. I'm going to trust them in this case to buy directly through them on the impressions. I don't want to buy on these other networks because these other networks aren't as trustworthy as Google. And those impressions could be showing up in Bangladesh instead of in my market. So that's just one example. And that's everywhere.
That's right.
Brutal.
Yes. Well, so it's a markup. They're not saying they're not marking it up.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I want to go with fraudulent necessarily, but it is it's dirty as hell. We could say it that way nicely, in my opinion.
So what did Restoration Hardware do? Do you know? I mean, is there an outcome to this where they said, screw it, we're going to chop all this and go after?
So they're measuring differently. I know that. And let me take it away from Restoration Hardware and go to dealers who feel they have to buy their name. So there are dealers that have to bid on their own name. And let me back up. There are only 2 entities that tell car dealers they should bid on their own name, okay? One is Google, and the other is the agency. They're the only 2 people who have these magical stats that say, even though you own the page for your name, you own page 1 organically for your name, you should also bid on your own name because 1 + 1 = 3.
Mm-hmm.
There are dealers who have to buy their own name. Atlanta Toyota, San Francisco Toyota, they have to buy their own name because their name is synonymous with a city. But virtually all other dealers don't need to buy their own name, because if I type in here in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, if I type in AutoNation Toyota Spokane owns page 1. They've got the business card, or the Google My Business map and results. They've got the first 3 results on organic. And the argument, though, that dealers will say then is, no, I have to buy my own name because I have to protect myself, because my competitors will bid on my name. Mm-hmm. And here's my answer to them. I say, okay, great. So that means you're bidding on all your competitor names? And most of them will say, well, we're putting a couple dollars towards that. Well, so wait a minute. If you have to protect your own name with most of your budget, right? Then why aren't you using a lot of your budget as well to bid on competitor names, right? Make them protected, because there must be some ROI for your competitor in stealing your name, right? And the fact is that there's not ROI in bidding on competitive names. That's why dealers don't generally bid that much on their own competitive names. And so the point is that why does Google want you to bid on your name? Why does the agency want you to bid on your name? Because those are your best prospects. Those are people who are already looking for you. Yeah. So if a dealer's unwilling to walk away from bidding on their own name, I say great, but let's make sure that is its own campaign where we can measure the ROI on all these other campaigns as well. Because what we start to find with pay-per-click especially is when you try to get too granular in what you're buying, your cost per sale goes through the roof. I had a dealer, we looked at F-150 purchases they were making, just the F-150 keywords. Their cost per sale was something like $4,000.
Whoa.
Yeah, so there are cheaper costs per sale when if you will manage this better. And so, but because it's all commingled, right? Because their budget for their own name shows all these great results, and then they commingle in these $4,000 cost per sale campaigns, their net cost per sale looks pretty good. Again, they're getting almost all of their business from their own name.
Interesting.
We solved it.
We did.
solved
Wow.
it.
No one will change it.
Steve solved it.
Steve solved it. Drinks on Steve.
Yeah. Except all the pay-per-click companies hate me now. So. Listen, I'm a fan of digital. I teach it, you know. I mean, but we have this thing like we have with Carvana called math, and just, you know, math kind of wins. Math kind of wins over opinion and feelings and all this other stuff. And just imagine my point to dealers is imagine what you could do with that budget, right? Just like my point is to Toyota, imagine what we could do with that budget. Imagine. One last thing on digital. And again, I'm a fan of digital, but I have a TV in my house. You may have one in your house as well. Where is Carvana advertising today? Advertising on TV.
I don't see them on TV, but boy, do I see them on I see them on YouTube. All over pre-roll.
Billboards in Dallas.
Perfect. Man. And billboards. There you go.
So many billboards.
And I see them. They're pretty heavy on Instagram.
The
and their ads are ironically are customer reviews. It's a lot of them are the photo of the vehicle being delivered, being taken down off of the truck during delivery.
Right.
Then some type of quote from the customer about how easy, how great, et cetera, et cetera. A photo of the customer with the car. I can't say it's effective. It catches my eye, but definitely, and they play to the whole, what we were speaking about earlier, they play to the whole, how the traditional method of buying a vehicle is so bad, so broken, and no one wants to do it. And that's what they play to. Well,
and for the TV ads that I see, it's easier to get that out in a TV ad than it is on a display ad. But let's take Carvana out of the mix. Let's just use AutoTrader, for example. AutoTrader.com advertises on TV a lot. TrueCar advertises on TV a lot. AutoTrader buys a lot of in-stadium signage.
Mm-hmm.
We sponsor a lot of events, things like that, things that are non-digital. I'm not saying get away from digital, but I'm saying let's not make digital the panacea that we think it is. I'm in a market where Dave Smith Motors is located. I see Dave Smith Motors commercials constantly. I hear them on the radio constantly. I hear them on Sirius satellite radio constantly. There's got to be some ROI in what they're doing. My point is not let's move all this money away from digital. My point is let's uncover the digital fraud and waste, and then let's decide what to do with that budget. Maybe it's more digital.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's TV. I don't know. And I want to answer Rick Buffkin's question. He had a question, how do you uncover the markup? And that is you pay Google directly. You pay Google directly. And one more thing, you pay Google directly. And when your SEM says we can't pay Google directly because of…
No, we're going to go down this again, Steve.
It's just time to get a new… well, as long as we're doing that, you know, today is Ad Click Friday.
No. Yes, it is Ad Click Friday. And I'm on board with this now.
You are on board. You're clicking on ads?
Down. I see the light at the end of the tunnel with your Ad Click Friday, Steve.
So I'm telling you, folks, I stopped doing the hashtag on Twitter, the Ad Click Friday campaign, but there's a lot of cool free stuff on the web. When you're reading something that's cool on the web, like or using a tool like PDF Merge, or you're at CNBC getting some free crap, you know, free stock advice, click on a couple ads. If you're on DealerRefresh.
I was going to say, if you're on DealerRefresh.
That's how
it all comes back to DealerRefresh.
Well, no.
So Bucky wants to know how you pay Google. You just do your credit card, you pay Google.
But it's how DealerRefresh pays the bills, hosting, our social pieces, software, hosting can actually cost quite a bit. So no, thank our sponsors, and click on an ad for sure. Whether if you're on the blog or the forums, and if you're looking for advertising, I say, because some people banner ads still have a huge play. We get great performance with our banner ads, especially on the homepage of the blog, where we've got it set up where both ads sort of overtake the top portion of the homepage.
Well, and you do well with these because you ask people to click on them on your Refresh Fridays.
Well,
So
we do.
sure,
Well, it's all because of you, Steve. It's Click Friday, right?
it costs money to put these things together. And, you know, the money that Dealer Refresh pays Steve Stauning or Mike Haeg to write an article, I mean, these are real dollars.
Wait a second. What? Wait. Steve, what are you getting out of this?
You should be paying Dealer Refresh. What are you talking about?
I do. I pay you in sushi burritos.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Back to that.
Hey, Metter wants to see the digital dealer recap from Kevin Fry. So that was, you guys didn't talk about it last week.
Well,
that's also on
down to
Dealer
that,
Refresh.
it's
not going to be on that page. You got to go to your homepage.
Yeah, it's right here.
Okay.
Speaking of another advertiser, Honker. I love that name, Honcker. They're doing something quite different. Be sure to click on that ad. It's all about leasing. It's getting that customer that's out there looking for a great lease deal. Honker basically works the customer all the way through. They don't hand the lead, really, they don't hand the customer, the client, over to the dealership until they're so far down the leasing path that it just makes sense to hand it over to the dealership at that point. So check it out. But yeah, this is Kevin. Kevin always does an amazing job. Thank you, Kevin, once again. I can't ever thank him enough. He always does his review of Digital Dealer. I think we go all the way. I don't even know how far we go back. But lots of photos, lots of commentary, great review, of course. We'll go into it just a little bit deeper. Photos.
And don't miss, there's AutoHook's ad right next to that. So click on that a few times because Matter will have to pay for that. So.
I feel like, yeah. Great photos. And I always, Kevin always has at least a paragraph or two that talks about the check-in process of Digital Dealer or any of the conferences that he attends. It's a sore subject for him. Know that he can walk up into the conference and within seconds he's got his badge and he's ready to go. Of course, he speaks at just about every Digital Dealer conference up to over the last several years. If you've never had the opportunity to see Kevin speak, I encourage you to do so. Get there early. It's usually standing room. It's and he's always got some cool giveaways that sort of tie into his presentation. Podium. We just had Podium on Refresh Friday 2 weeks ago with Mr. Matt Murray. That was a great one. So I know sort of I don't want to say an age topic of reputation and reviews, but it's still out there. It's still highly important. And Matt threw a few different twists on it. So great one. If you didn't check out that Refresh Friday from 2 weeks ago, do so. You can find all of Refresh Friday's recordings on our YouTube channel. So be sure to subscribe to that.
Well, before we go, I wanted to mention that Mike purposely set up his camera so that he looked like he's 7'3".
Is that what?
How tall are you, Mike? You are tall. I mean, you're what, about 6'2"?
He is tall.
Cut a foot off 7'3". I'm about 6'3".
6'3". Okay, very good.
Yeah, 6'3", rather gangly, and no glasses.
No glasses.
No
Good
more.
to meet you finally, by the way.
Yeah. We'll have to meet in person sometime.
Someday.
I bring up this photo real quick, but Mr. Arlie Emery, he passed away.
Yeah.
And I remember, it was so funny because I remember going, I think it was NADA several years ago, and I remember him from a couple different movies. And I was like, how did Black Book get him to, I guess, be their face of the product there for quite a few years? So I think we all had the opportunity to meet that gentleman. Cool guy.
Yeah, so
really neat story.
And so I was still with Asbury then, and so Black Book,
Yeah.
they took me to dinner, and I sat next to him, and of course I served in the Marine Corps, you may not know. And this, I'll tell you what, Gunny could not have been nicer. He was not paid to be there at dinner. He went to the dinner with the Black Book guys, and he shook everybody's hand in the restaurant that wanted to shake his hand. He took pictures with anybody who wanted to take pictures. He signed autographs. but just a genuinely nice guy. I think that probably comes from the fact that, he had a pretty common upbringing and then served in the Corps and just kind of became an actor by accident. And he was still humble that way. So a really good guy. Really, obviously, it's sad when folks.
So you're comparing yourself to him and the fact that you're both nice guys.
Yeah. No, I'm contrasting myself to him.
Sorry, Steve.
It's all right.
And then, I think everyone's pretty excited about Men in Automotive.
Finally.
Yeah, about time. So we're going to have our own exclusive conference for Men in Automotive. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Kevin's going to be heading up that whole initiative. So excited to be that. I haven't been I guess invited to be a speaker. Have you, Steve?
I have not, but my testosterone levels are not high enough.
Okay. So some more photos, but definitely check that out. Another article I believe we have over on the blog was last week with that was a really great, that was a fun Refresh Friday with John Colban and JP Asagaev out of Toronto. We really dove into videos and some of the different technologies behind that, so that was fun. And then Cars.com launches their AI chat, of course, is a part, I'm assuming a part of the Dealer Inspire chat piece, which is the AI chat. I guess they're integrating that into the Cars.com platform. And I'm guessing if you have a Dealer Inspire website, there's probably some tie-in between the two. Sounds pretty interesting. And chat, phones, Mike, you guys have a chat product?
We don't. What we do have is texting, though, which is
Okay.
really going the way of chat. And it almost looks and feels like chat on a website, the old text us now banner. So customer text, it goes into our platform or the CRM as well.
Okay.
And the response from the dealer is out of our platform, or kind of through a pop-up window. So it feels like chat almost to the dealer because you're typing it out, but it's going through the phones. What's key is that it's on trackable phone numbers. Where we see the most traction with turning trackable phone numbers into textable phone numbers is, man, so when you use us and you make an outbound call, we can track and record it, right? So we can do a better job of holding those guys accountable on outbound, something we didn't even get to, the outbound side. But we can also customize what that customer or prospect sees, which phone number. So it can be a tracking number, which will then track if they call back, right? So if you call back the dealership, you missed the call, we'll still capture that call and put it in CRM. You would be, I guess you probably wouldn't be, but amazed at how many people just text that number back, right?
Really?
Hey, I'm in a meeting. Hey, I'm busy. Maybe they say, hey, I know you're calling about the appointment today. I'll be there later. But that is a huge opportunity for customer engagement and customer conversation that's just not happening right now, that we're really rolling out.
So you're saying be able to provision even your local numbers per se?
Yeah.
In order to be able to accept text message?
Exactly. And then put that number on your caller ID when you call somebody. So when I get a phone call as a customer or a prospect,
it shows the dealership name.
It shows the dealership name. That's less and less just because the way of cell phones and a lot of those records don't get updated. But what does happen though is that number that the prospect sees or has now in their phone, if they call it back, it's tracked and recorded and goes to the dealership and goes in CRM, a valuable lead source likely. Or if they text it back, which a lot of us are starting to do now when you get a call, we can track and record or manage that text process as well and put it in front of the dealership. And that is where we're seeing the most kind of opportunity is texts from customers who just missed calls from the dealership.
That's interesting. I would have never thought that would be a substantial number.
I think it's and I think it's because, and this was part of my presentation at Innovative Dealer Summit, is you know, if we'd asked people 15 years ago, are you ever going to get rid of your home phone? People would have said, well, no, never. But now today, so few people, relatively speaking, have home phones that they just assume any number they see is a textable number, right?
I haven't had a home phone number in 15 years.
Yeah. Now, see, I haven't had one in 10, but you got me beat. 15 years ago, people probably thought you were from Mars, saying you're getting rid of your home phone. But today, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, you know, Spectrum wants to throw it in for free with my bundle from for cable and internet. I don't want it. I got nothing to do with it.
Unfortunately, with that, I get more spam phone calls now than ever before, and we got to figure that out. But that's a different.
Another Refresh Friday.
Yeah, it is.
There's a good article about a guy who just got I just casually came across it. I'm interested in that spam stuff. It's about as unsexy as possible, but it's a very pertinent topic in the world I live in.
I bet.
And a guy just got, I think he's going through a trial or pleading his case right now. He got busted for making, I think it was like 97 million robocalls over the past few years to try to get people to buy or basically give information through like a timeshare or a Marriott or something. So he was pretending to be somebody. So whether it's that guy.
It's a great story, Mike. This is a great story. A lot of good facts. Go ahead. Sorry.
So here, I'll give you some facts. I get spam calls all the time, right? I get spam calls all the time. And the problem is the government has almost given up on trying to track those down.
Yeah.
So this story that I will now send to you, Steve, and your inbox. Probably I'll send it 50 times in a row just to make sure you see it.
Appreciate that.
Showed an example where they did get somebody, right? And 97 million robocalls. That just sucks. It just happens a lot.
That should be prison time, by the way. I mean, real hard time years. I mean, what are we saying? 30 years for that? I'm telling you, these guys are. There's no downside.
An example, that's for sure.
There's no downside to that. There's no downside to some of this white collar crime that just is terrible for us as humans. Anyway,
yeah.
I digress.
Real quick, because we are actually 2 minutes past the hour, but we've had some engaging conversation here. Deals for dealers. This was something that we had on DealerRefresh. I started, I don't know, quite a few years back. It sort of dissolved, fizzled, went away. We've brought it back, and now it's back twofold. So if you're a dealership, you're looking for a good deal, and it's got to go through our, I guess, our filters first. So if you are a vendor, you want to throw out deals for dealers, you almost need to contact myself or Alex first. You can post it up there, but it's not going to go live right away. But one example, Melinda over at she provides a newsletter service for car dealerships, one-to-one news. I've been using them for quite a few years. I've recommended them for quite a few years on the dealership level. Some people like newsletters. Some dealers like them. Some dealers don't. But with the engagement levels and reporting that we get at my Mercedes-Benz dealership, it'd be silly not to do it. But anyway, she's throwing up a 3 months at no charge for anyone that's on DealerRefresh as part of the community and mentions the Deals for Dealers promotion. So jump on that. That's great. We've got some others. I think Jerry Tebow with one of his products, he's up there and live. And Ryan Leslie posted something as well with Car Stories. So and there's quite a few others.
Car Story is huge, folks. I'm trying to get an article out on it but I just don't.
Is that for DealerRefresh or is that?
Yeah, it'll be for DealerRefresh, but it's just because the more I learn about Car Story, the bigger it just seems, and the more important it seems for dealers. And so I'm trying to put an article together, but I'm struggling with inspiration. I'm struggling to get the operational piece in it. As you know, in my articles, I like to have a little bit of actual takeaways, right, instead of just complaining. But here's what you can do, sort of thing.
What part are you struggling at? I mean, I'm sure you have connections over there, right?
Well, yeah, Ryan and I talked at NADA, and I promised him an article, and now I'm what are we 4 years since that NADA?
Way to go! Way to go!
Anyway,
well, and we've had Chad on. We had Chad on probably.
I was on with him.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It was I'm a fan. Again, listen, it's me, it's not them. Don't forget there's also a deal for dealers on crutchit.com. So
that's
sign
right.
up right now.
Don't forget about that. Talk about that for we got a few seconds. I mean, I know
we're losing audience.
I'm not sure what your affiliation is with it. I think it's not.
As of right now, my affiliation is a virtual handshake with crutchit.com. We've got no agreements in place other than we shook hands via email and phone, and but I believe in the way that consumers will be searching for salespeople. At some point, it'll be just as important. Everybody wants a friend in the car business, and if I can find a trusted salesperson first and then have them help me, I'm going to be more likely to buy in the future. And so Crutchit is all about generating repeats, reviews, and referrals for salespeople. It's free to sign up today. There's lots of functionality that's not built into the platform yet, but will be, and all of that will be grandfathered into folks who sign up during the free beta period.
I was going to say, is there a cost associated? It's free?
It's free. How do we make money? Volume.
What's that?
I said, how do we make money? Volume.
Oh. Well, I mean, I don't know. Again, probably a topic for another Refresh Friday, but you talk about, consumers are at that point where they're actually looking for, they're looking for the salesperson before.
They're not today. Okay. So make no mistake, they're not today because they don't know they're supposed to today. But what if they knew that they were supposed to? What if they knew that there was a place?
We're to program them to consider that part of the process.
There you go. But it also helps them generate social interactions. You use it to generate reviews for yourself, generate social interactions, that sort of thing. So it's not all about, a funnel that brings consumers right to the salesperson.
Who's behind this project?
Some folks that have dealership and OEM experience.
Okay.
And currently work for dealers and OEMs, so I don't know that I can share.
Hey, that's a good story, Steve. Lots of facts right there.
I'll send it to you 50 times.
No, I mean, I'm not familiar. I mean, you keep talking about it, you keep pimping it out, and I've got a filter that if you talk about it at least a dozen times, then the 13th time I'm going to take this shit serious.
Well, I'll two more times.
I think we're sitting on number 11. So
right now, but see, right now, sign up. There's no downside. What are we going to do? Right? We're going to steal your email address. That's all you're going to give us.
You've got that posted up in Deals for Dealers, right?
Deals for Dealers. It's in there. Look for Crutchit. It's probably fallen down a couple spots.
Well,
all the new Deals for Dealers in there.
Use that little bump feature.
Let's bump it on Tuesday.
Yeah,
anyway,
bump it Tuesday. That's right.
Yes.
I'm trying to get there. What's going on, man? All right.
I don't know, but we're losing audience.
I know. Well, it's 8 after 2. So let's bring it to an end. Check out Deals for Dealers. Mike, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you guys. This is fun.
We'll have you back for sure. I think there's probably 20 more topics of discussion that we didn't even scrape the surface on. Steve, as always, appreciate you being part of the community and jumping on with us today.
My pleasure.
If you're not signed up for Dealer Refresh, if you are a lurker in the forums, quit lurking. Sign up, be a part of the community, ask a question, answer some questions. Subscribe to our Refresh Friday on YouTube. And of course, we always go live on Facebook this exact same time every Friday. So thank you so much, gentlemen. And
thanks, guys.
See you soon.
Thanks,
Jeff. Good to meet you.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
My
Bye.
pleasure. My pleasure, Mike.
You got it, man.